Part 7 of Federalist 7, the opportunities which some states would have of rendering others tributary to them by commercial regulations would be impatiently submitted to by the tributary state. The relative situation of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey would afford an example of this kind. New York, from the necessities of revenue, must lay duties on her importation. A great part of these duties must be paid by the inhabitants of the two other states in the capacity of consumers of what we import. New York would neither be willing to able to forego this disadvantage. Her citizens would not consent that a duty paid by them should be remitted in favor of citizens of her neighbors. Nor would it be practicable if there were not this impediment in the way to distinguish the customers in our own markets. Would Connecticut and New Jersey long submit to be taxed by New York for her exclusive benefit? Should we be long permitted to remain in the quiet and undisturbed employment of a metropolis, from the possession of which we derived an advantage so odious to our neighbors, and in their opinion so oppressive? Should we be able to preserve it against the incumbent weight of Connecticut on the one side, and the cooperating pressure of New Jersey on the other? These are questions that temerity alone will answer in the affirmative. Okay, I mentioned this before. Look, this is the state of New York right here. This is New York. Connecticut is right here, and New Jersey is right here. And the state of New York extends all the way to here. New York has good harbors, good ports, whereas Connecticut and New Jersey did not at that time. So what New York would do is import stuff, pay the tariff, or pay some sort of duty on it, but pass it on to the consumers in New Jersey and Connecticut. This way New York's residents would have it easy. They would not have too much, they would not have to pay too much on items that would be entering the state, but people in New Jersey and Connecticut would end up paying for it. And he says that people of New York are so used to this, like this so much, that they're not going to change this. They're just going to keep it on. It's to their advantage, and they say, who cares if it's to the disadvantage of New Jersey or Connecticut or any other state? And Hamilton reminds the readers that maybe in the past, when we were united and fighting Britain, people didn't mind it as much because we were in war, we were in a revolutionary war. But he says, do you think that this can go on for a long time? Do you think people of New Jersey and Connecticut will be willing to pay the extra tax just so that citizens of New York won't have to? So here's another example that this union, this selfish act of one state to the disadvantage of other states, will possibly push them towards war, argument and then war. So he says, beware, beware, because this is going to happen. Do we want this? Will this be in the long term to our advantage? And he says, no, this won't be. And the very last line says, these are questions that temerity alone will answer in the affirmative. He says, only if you're extra very proud of yourself, very confident, maybe not correctly, not justifiably confident, but confident, unreasonable confidence, that's the only time you can say yes. Otherwise, a realistic person will know that after a while, New Jersey, Connecticut, and any other state that will be affected in a negative way, they will not put up with it. They will start a war. The next paragraph says, the public debt of the Union would be a further cause of collision between the separate states or confederacies. Oh, this is another important part. When they fought the War of Independence, they had to borrow a lot of money. And when they decide now to pay the debt back, to pay the money they owe back, who is going to tell them, who is going to tell each state how much they owe? They're not going to agree to what you say if you're not united. The apportionment in the first instance and the progressive extinguishment afterwards would be alike productive of ill humor and animosity. He says, when you apportion the amount that they have to pay, when you tell them how much they have to pay, what their share is, that's going to bring ill humor and animosity. It's going to bring feelings of distrust and animosity. How would it be possible to agree upon a rule of apportionment satisfactory to all? How can you divide that debt in a way that they'll be happy and satisfied with it? There's scarcely any that can be proposed which is entirely from real objections. Every proposal you look at, somebody is going to be a little bit unhappy with it. These, as usual, would be exaggerated by the adverse interests of the parties. So what happens is, when one state feels like they've got a bigger share of the debt, then their feeling of animosity towards another state that might not be paying that much increases. Let's say if North Carolina has to pay a lot for the debt and Virginia doesn't, for example, then North Carolina is not going to like Virginia for that. So it says these things build up, and it creates a lot of animosity. There are even dissimilar views among the states as to the general principle of discharging the public debt. Discharging the public debt means paying the public debt, paying it off. Some of them either less impressed with the importance of national credit, or because their citizens have little, if any, immediate interest in the question, feel an indifference, if not a repugnance, to the payment of the domestic debt at any rate. So you might find one or two states that won't even care that they have good credit or not. They'll say, the hell with it. We're not going to pay our debt back. Who cares? We don't want to be part of this union anyways, and we don't want to have a relationship with the country that we owe money to. So they're thinking short-sighted. So he says, this way, we lose our credit, and if we lose our credit, if credit gets bad, then the other states are going to look with animosity towards those one or two states that did not pay, that they did not honor their public debt. And on the other hand, he says, others of them, a numerous body of whose citizens are creditors to the public beyond the proportion of the state in the total amount of national debt, would be strenuous for some equitable and effective provision. Then some other states, you'll have more people that have lent money out. They are creditors. A lot of people have borrowed money from them. They are going to be upset if the debtors, if the people who owe them money, regardless of what state they're in, don't pay back. Not only they will lose their credit, but also they're not going to get the money back that they've lent out. So this is going to create a lot of trouble. This is a very important subject for you all to look at. I already showed you the book Unruly Americans by Woody Holton. That's definitely a good book for you all to read. And there are other books like that. He makes references to other books that he's used. So it's good to pay attention to this because it's important. Well, I will finish this paragraph in the next video.